I think we're good to go. So hello, everyone, and welcome to our Young Professional Leadership Conference. We are so excited to have you join us today. We have an amazing topic being brought forth by the amazing Monica Mitchell of Wells Fargo. Monica is going to talk to us today about building your influence as you build your wealth. And so before we jump into that amazing topic, please allow me to introduce myself to you as your co-host this afternoon. I am Ashley Johnson. I am a member of the Emerging Leaders United Executive Council and have been a member of United Way for close to 13 years now. And this organization truly has helped me grow both personally and professionally. I am also a certified addictions counselor through the state of Maryland, as well as a behavioral health project manager at Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. Behavioral health is my passion for many reasons, but my why is definitely my family and friends. Addiction has taken away so many people that I've loved and cared about in various ways, and I just knew that I needed to do my part to help others. So when my why aligned with United Way's mission, I knew that this was where I belonged. So enough about me. Please also allow me to introduce to you all my fellow council members. Council members, if you can say hello in the chat, that would be awesome. I see so many of you. And again, we're so excited about this Vision to Action conference. Today's professional development session is the first of 3 sessions designed to help you grow as a professional while also giving back to our communities. Please remember to join us for our upcoming professional development sessions on Thursday, including topics such as deep listening skills at 3 p.m. and building trust from the beginning, becoming a first-time supervisor at 4 p.m. on Thursday. There will be a link in the chat to register for these sessions if you haven't already. So, and also, please join us after this session for a networking happy hour to continue the conversation around Monica's topic. And without further ado, please allow me to introduce our speaker for this afternoon. I'm going to bring up Monica's bio and introduce her to our group. Can we see? Good to go? All right, so Monica Mitchell, VP of Social Impact at Wells Fargo. In her role, Monica leads social impact work for the Maryland and Greater DC regions and serves as chair of Wells Fargo's $1.6 billion lending and philanthropic commitment in Washington, DC, called Where We Live, focused on supporting small business, financial health, and housing affordability. Monica is a founder and founding board president of the Lily Mae Carroll Jackson Public Charter School, a school that educates over 300 girls in 5th through 8th grades in Baltimore City. She was a founding member of the United Way Emerging Leaders United program to promote the professional development and community involvement of Maryland's next generation of leaders. Monica is one of the youngest honorees inducted into the Maryland Top 100 Women, Circle of Excellence, and was most recently named a 2021 Influential Marylander. Monica?
Thank you so much, Ashley. I really appreciate it, and I'm really glad to have an opportunity to be with you all today. Thank you to Patty and Katie and everyone at the United Way for having me. So today's discussion is really going to be around how do you grow your influence as you grow your wealth in your career. To be effective in organizations today, you just simply have to be able to influence people. And if you guys are anything like me, when I was, early to mid-level in my career, your title alone is not always enough to sway other people, nor do you always have a formal position to be able to do so. And so some of the things that we're going to talk about today is, what's the best way to position yourself as an informal leader? How do you motivate your colleagues to support your initiatives and adopt your ideas? How can you become a go-to person that others look to for support and guidance and expert advice? And how do you build the credibility to influence others so that you're a top candidate for future job and leadership opportunities? How do you build that influence so that you can help move the bridge, move the just sort of move the line on creating systems change and social change within our area? And also, how do you best cultivate and position your personal brand for future income producing opportunities as well? So actually, we can move to the next slide. Thank you. What's the meaning of influence? Influencing people is absolutely one of the most significant undertakings you're going to take as a leader. Oxford Dictionary defines influence as the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. When you have that sort of effect on other people, you have power. And that's not a power born of coercion, but rather a strength from within that really invites people to listen to what you have to say, gets them to want to work with you, and encourages them to share your vision. And if we're trying to build our wealth, or we're trying to build our influence to impact social change, that's exactly what we want. That type of influence is important to you advancing your goals, whether they are to land a position with increased income and responsibilities, or getting your organization to commit to or increase their social impact efforts. So today, our discussion is going to focus on 3 critical areas: how you can strengthen your network, how you can build your influence regardless of whether you have a formal or informal position of leadership, and how you can use your influence to create change. And beginning to follow these steps with intentionality will really help you begin to chart a path for financial well-being while also supporting the community to help build a stronger region. So let me be clear, you need to build and nurture your network all the way throughout your career. There's just no getting around that. But what's the secret? Networking is not about you at all. It's always, always, always about the other person. And networking is a contact sport, but it honestly does not need to be hard. Let's just talk a little bit about 10 ways that you can begin to do more right now to build and strengthen your network, no matter where you are, whether you're just starting out in your career, you're mid-level, or you feel like you have a significant network already. One of the easiest things that you can do is to always be on the lookout for help. Identify opportunities that you can build and nurture your network, from brainstorming ideas or introducing someone when they're looking for a new job. Those are incredible opportunities to show your value to other people within your network. Offer your skills. There are going to be some people in your network who can benefit from your skill set. So, whether you've got graphic design skills or some other skills, whether you're actively using them in your job or not, offering your expertise or being a sounding board really shows that you're genuinely interested in helping other people. That can also be put into play if you currently or are thinking about serving on a board or serving on a committee for a nonprofit organization. Offering your skills is a value add to the organization that you may be offering your services to, and it'll offer you an opportunity to sharpen those skills as well. And you'll get to meet new people all the way in the process. Another way to build your network is to make a strategic introduction. There's probably people in your networks, you think about your LinkedIn, your other social media networks, that have similar interests to each other. If you meet 2 people and you know that there would definitely be some synergy there, or 2 folks would benefit from meeting each other, or that maybe they're working on similar or adjacent projects, take the time to arrange for that to happen, for them to meet each other. And if you're local, be that conduit. Schedule time for them to meet by coffee together, and you join in as well. Now, this one is an easy one and a really important one. Identify ways to help somebody's family member. You may have people in your network that you've heard that their son or daughter or somebody that they know or is thinking about applying to your alma mater, or maybe their family member is looking to enter a field similar to yours. I can tell you that very early in my career, I did this step intentionally. When I heard folks were applying to careers and fields similar to mine, I would, offer to just meet with them to, for them to bounce ideas off of, or to share some potential interview questions that I can imagine they would receive, or to just take a look at their resume. These weren't things that I was asked to do, but just volunteered to do. And I will tell you that almost every single time, that person has become a loyal and very strong member of my personal network, because they've been grateful for the resources that I've been able to leverage for themselves, but more importantly, their family. Volunteer at a charity event or a community event. We all know you wouldn't be a part of United Way if this weren't the case, that giving of yourself, even if it's for a few hours, is an incredible way to get your own endorphins going, to nurture your network, and to meet new people in a different context. It's, not only are you doing something good for the community, but you'll be doing something good for yourself as well. And many times those networks that you build when you're going out and attending those volunteer opportunities get to see you work in a different light. You can learn a lot from people when you see how they work and the commitment that they bring to efforts that they're not getting paid to do. And so this is such an important way for you to build and leverage and grow your networks. One of the other tips that I really want to provide is to extend an invitation. Some of you may have companies that sponsor events, that have extra tickets every now and then to an exhibit, to maybe an event, a major event that's going on. Leverage those opportunities to invite others to a professional or cultural event. It's a great way to reconnect with people in an informal way. You can bring former colleagues together or others you haven't seen for a while, or just be able to leverage the opportunity to get engaged and get to know someone that you may want to tap into and get to know a little bit better. Maybe you've met them in passing, maybe you met them at a conference, spoke to them for about 10 minutes, but it's somebody that you want to keep on your radar. Extending an invitation and inviting them to an event is a great way to be able to do that. Always speak highly of the people that you respect and value, and never ever miss a chance to tell others about the value that someone brings. Now, this is one that you may not see immediate benefit from, but it's all about putting good karma out there. I firmly believe in celebrating the successes of others and sharing when I deeply respect someone, and telling somebody else what an incredible individual someone is. And so this may or may not get back to the person, but recognition matters. And like I said, you putting that good karma out there will always come back to you in the future. Congratulate someone. If you hear about somebody's accomplishment or life event, new job, marriage, engagement, new house, pick a thing, send a quick note and extend your best wishes. If there's somebody in the workplace, take a moment to just write a note and stick it on their desk. If you're on social media, make sure that you share a comment and acknowledge their success. When you show that you're invested in other people besides yourself, your network will reflect this, and that will pay off dividends to you as well. Speaking of social media, comment and share on social media when other folks in your network write or post things. Maybe you have people who create blog posts, or maybe they're celebrating their own or their company's accomplishment. One of the things that you can do is be really intentional about sharing that within your networks. I have one of my best community partners always amplifies my good news. And I always feel indebted to him. He could ask me anything and I'd be like, oh my gosh, sure. How can I help you? When can I help you by? Because he's always amplifying and celebrating my good news, posts that I put. And I know that not only if I put something on social media, is it my network that's going to see it, but I know that he's going to share it and his network is going to see it as well. And I truthfully feel indebted to him for being so intentional about doing that. And then the last thing, and again, super low lift, none of these require having extensive networks or extensive knowledge or anything, or even extensive resources. It just shows that you care. Recommend a new restaurant or a good book or a good movie to somebody. Showing that you're invested in a person Make sure it doesn't seem random. Make sure that you let the person know why you thought of them and made the recommendation. I remember the last time that we were speaking, you mentioned that you had this, this interest in horses, and here's something that's coming up that I thought you'd be interested in. That shows that not only are you taking a personal interest and you need folks' help, and you have invested in and been very intentional about taking these steps, the people that you've helped in the past will absolutely be more than happy to step up. So make it a practice of being a good networker, not just knowing a bunch of people, not necessarily just knowing their names, but truly interactive in the networking process. And that means making it a practice of considering how you can use your skills, your knowledge, and your experiences to be a valuable resource to others. So now that we've identified some concrete ways to strengthen your network, let's consider how you can build your influence regardless of whether you have a formal or informal position of leadership. There really are 4 characteristics of a good influencer. And we all hear about influencers now thanks to social media. That type of influence honestly has little in common with effective influence at work. Think about and what it feels like to be inspired by people who you felt like have made a defining mark on your life. You have the sense of what it feels like to have meaningful influence person to person. We all know what that feels like to be in the presence of someone with influence, even if we don't have the words to define exactly what it is that makes them stand out. However, I'm going to share that there are 4 characteristics that do distinguish someone as a person of influence. And understanding this will allow us to better identify those people that we want to network with, identify potential mentors and sponsors, which is always very important, and also allow us to sharpen our own skills in becoming influential leaders. The first is that they're intentional. You can spot someone who is deliberate by how ready for action they are in their work and in their lives. They prioritize what needs to be done throughout the day using efficient scheduling. They keep their sights on the long view term, and they choose their words with care. When it comes to influencing, words absolutely matter. These are the folks that prepare for their presentations with research. They collaborate with others and offer their best in a given situation. And they do this consistently day in and day out by practicing these behaviors on a regular basis and with a regular routine. They are absolutely intentional about how they navigate their personal and professional lives. They also connect. When you come into the space with someone who is influential, you automatically feel included. Sometimes you're asked questions from them. Other times you may be offered feedback, but it's all to be able to bring you into the loop and bring you into the circle of trust. I heard that Ashley mentioned that there are future sessions that'll be happening talking about building trust. Including people is such a key component to building that circle of trust. And this connection reminds you that while they may be leading the effort, they choose not to do it alone. They may even be capable of doing it alone, but they are making the choice to include and connect others in initiatives that they're working on. And that's why people are much more likely to want to collaborate with them. They're excited about the possibilities that you might accomplish with them because they're connectors. They're also resilient. The influential person is aware that things do not always go as planned. And when the unexpected happens, they're really ready to dig in and find new ways to manage a situation. They're also willing to share the new strategy with the team, again, not going at it alone. But taking calculated risk and revealing what they're facing, you know that they're there for the long haul. So the challenges don't feel debilitating, but rather when you're working with a person of influence, they often find the opportunity to reframe and reboot those challenges so that they come up with the team a new plan of action. That's resiliency. And then finally, they are lifelong learners. In the presence of a person of influence, you are keenly aware that they are always one step ahead because of how they constantly choose to learn and grow. They never tell you that they've arrived because they innately know that something of interest will be around the corner. There is always something new or more to learn. And it's this passion for growth that really draws you to take the next course, to stay up late to master a program, to read a fascinating book on your business. You're drawn to that level of enthusiasm that they have because you see the impact of learning for the sake of learning that it has on the projects that they work on. Being a lifelong learner is one of the key characteristics of being of someone that's influential. So thinking about these 4 traits, now let's talk about how we build our skills in these areas, right? So how do we start to embody these traits? So you can develop your influence regardless of whether you have a formal or informal position of leadership. I'm going to share a quick anecdote with you guys. When and some of you, I don't know if if you've been on, if you've had a conversation with me before, you may have heard this, but when I first came to Wells Fargo, now 18 years ago, I was working in our branches. I did not have very much influence, and I didn't have any influence at all. And I was probably about six months into the position, but I make it my business to read a lot. I find myself to be a connector and genuinely share ideas and input for the betterment of the organization or anywhere that I'm from. And at the time, the Reginald F. Lewis Museum was new. I was reading an article in the Baltimore Sun and didn't see that the bank had yet become a supporter of the program. So I reached out to the area president and really respectfully sent an email, introduced myself. My name is Monica Mitchell. I haven't had a chance to meet you yet. I'm fairly new in one of your branches. I was reading about the Reginald F. Lewis Museum opening. Very excited for the opportunity to highlight the rich history of African Americans and entrepreneurs in Baltimore. But I was so disappointed not to see what was then called Wachovia, then became Wells Fargo. I was so disappointed not to see the bank as one of the sponsors of the inaugural sponsors of the museum. And took the chance to send the email. After I sent it, I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? He sent an email back to me and thanked me so much for my feedback, thanked me for caring about how we showed up in the community, and indicated that the bank was in fact one of the inaugural donors, but had made the commitment after the newspaper had run the article. And so reassured me that we would be contributing, but also then invited me to be a part of our foundation committee going forward, because he really appreciated the care and time that I took to send that feedback and the interest that I had in how the bank was showing up in the community. I was 24 at the time and became the youngest person to sit on our foundation committee. Now, fast forward, probably 12 years later, I then chaired the committee and oversaw all of the work, all the philanthropic work that the bank was doing, not only in this state, but for the region. And so my reaching out actually led to an entirely different career path, becoming connected with our foundation than I probably would have been on otherwise. So I share that all to say that, taking risks, learning, those things matter in your trajectory in your career. And so I did not have a position of influence at all. I was a bank, what we then called financial specialist. This was not a formal position of leadership, but by educating myself, by showing my interest in the organization, how the organization showed up and reputation management wise in the community, by lending my expertise. Although I was not long in the financial services industry, I am a lifelong Baltimorean, and volunteered my expertise in some of the things that maybe the bank didn't realize were social needs in the area. And all of that led to an entirely different career than I thought I was going to have in the bank. So it is entirely possible to influence even if you have an informal position of leadership. One of those key areas is building connections. So you don't have to, nor should you, live your life like you are part of a popularity contest at all. But it is important at a fundamental level to understand that one of the reasons people do things for you, one of the reasons why they support your ideas or approve of your budget is because they like you. You should be a likable person. You should work to be a likable person. That doesn't mean, getting people to like you with, for the sake of that only. But that is one of the reasons that folks do things. So you don't have to be the awesomest person in the room. You just need to have good rapport with your colleagues and with other people. And that won't translate directly into influence, of course, but it does make people more likely to hear you out. So just work on cultivating your personal connections with your colleagues and within your networks. Allow them to get to know you, and most importantly, get to know them. The tips that we discussed earlier about networking absolutely 100% apply here. Develop expertise. As I mentioned in my own personal example, I'm a reader, I'm a learner. Reading up on relevant issues to your business, to your company, expanding your knowledge base in those areas, even if they don't have to do directly with what your job is today. Identify ways that you can add value in those spaces. And so that's another way that you can increase your influence at work. Become recognized as an expert within your industry, within your organization, or regarding how your organization's resources can positively support community needs. Now, becoming an expert will not happen overnight, but you can take steps to develop business critical expertise and know-how. Immerse yourself in a topic area by regularly attending industry conferences. You can enroll in online classes. There are specialized certification programs. There's YouTube, right? There's a wealth of knowledge on there, or taking on a leadership role within a relevant professional organization. You can talk to people who have been actually affected by the problem or issue that you're developing your expertise in. Remember that lived experience is always going to be a powerful tool, and one that has historically been undervalued. Don't keep your knowledge under wraps. If you're learning all this stuff and nobody knows that you're learning it, that's not necessarily going to do yourself or your team any good. So you may want to think about blogging about your topic, or sharing insights on LinkedIn, or volunteering to share insights in your company newsletter. Those are ways to demonstrate what you know. And always stay relevant with your skills. Being influential means that you're staying up to date with the latest developments in your industry. That means that you're able and ready to pivot if necessary when it's time to make changes. And it also means that you're able to make change and embrace the constancy of change. One of the reasons and things that hold so many companies back is that folks are often stuck on the way that we've always done things, or I know best. And that's not a recipe for influence or effectiveness in today's workplace. So by informing yourselves and maintaining that relevant expertise, you'll also be positioning yourself to better observe trends and forecast, and adapt and reinforce what you need to know and share it with others. And then you're in a position to make sure that your business is stronger and, quite frankly, more competitive. One of the other ways is to begin to cultivate the skill of listening without interruption. I know this sounds super basic, but listening is all about your state of mind. When you listen, when you truly listen, you are present. Pay attention to what someone is saying and not what you want to say when you're speaking with someone and when you're listening. In fact, practice repeating the last sentence or the last part of a sentence that the other person says. The repetition helps establish a connection because the other person feels heard. They feel that you are listening. Or paraphrase, after they've finished saying what they're saying, what I heard you say is blah, blah, blah. Check for understanding and demonstrate that you care enough to seek to understand. And that way, if there's any confusion, you'll know immediately and you can request a clarification. But I will tell you that being listened to is rare enough that doing so is genuinely likely going to raise your influence with the people that you do listen to. Fourth is act with integrity. When your actions stem from a core value of integrity, you are aligned with your whole self and are coherent. The word integrity in and of itself is from the Latin word integer, So a person with integrity is whole and complete. Acting with integrity means that you bring your whole self to wherever you are. That could be work, home, in the checkout line, wherever. You realize that what you do has an impact on those around you. And in addition, you are the same person, recognizable regardless of setting. Integrity implies coherence between your values, your actions, and your words, irrespective of context. You do what you say you're going to do. And if your goal is to get other people to count on you, honor your commitments. When you say you'll have a response by tomorrow at 9 a.m., do your best to have it in their inbox before that time. And if something is going to prevent you from following through, let somebody know that you're on it and when you will be able to respond. When other people feel that you're dependable, you become a reliable presence, and that absolutely increases your influence. Give others a voice. We talked about listening. Give others a voice. As much as you'd like to share your ideas, and I know your ideas are absolutely phenomenal, pause and ask for someone else to introduce or share a suggestion. Making sure those people around you are heard and understood helps people feel seen and valued. If you see a colleague being overlooked or unheard, take the opportunity to redirect the attention to them or their idea. You empower others by offering them this opportunity, and they will feel included in the process. I know that you all have probably been in meetings, and either you or someone that you've noticed has been ignored, unheard. And think about the times where someone in the room is courageous enough to know or say, oh, hey, can we revisit Katie's suggestion? Did you hear what Patty mentioned? Or Ashley, I thought that was a great idea. Can you repeat that again? I'm not sure the whole room heard that. When you take the moment to share the opportunity and share the floor so that other people can share their voice, that increases your influence as well. Stay focused on what matters. Absolutely remove yourself from minor issues, minor office politics and competition. That will set you apart as a person of influence. People of influence do not get involved in petty things. That's because you're much more interested in knowing what makes other people tick so that they can perform better and more effectively. You're more interested in understanding what the business needs, what the community needs, and how you can best use those resources to meet everybody's goals. If you're focused on that, you absolutely do not have time for the pettiness. You direct strategic steps that will take your team to the next level, and you do your work in a way that demonstrates exceptional standards, never anything less. Engage with others. If you want people to be interested in where you're headed, you will do what it takes to relate to them in an authentic and meaningful way. You know the names and tendencies of the people you work with on every level, and you find ways to bring out the best in them. You tackle obstacles as a group, and you celebrate wins together, and you are transparent enough that those around you are able to know you too, in addition to you knowing them. This is really important because, oftentimes we may feel like we bar ourselves off or only show a certain part of ourselves at work, and you're certainly entitled to do that. Everybody does not need to know every single aspect about you. However, it is important that when you do engage with others, you engage with folks in an authentic way. You show care about the person. You show care about their outcomes. You show care about their career trajectory. You show care about their feelings. Some ways that you can do this is, if you've ever gone into someone's office, one of the first things I'll do is I'll look around and see what decorations might be on there, what family pictures may be on there. Are there, certain colors that may indicate that they're a fan of a particular sports team? Do they have certificates or awards in their office? All of those things can give you clues to the person, to what's important in their lives based on what they've decided to display in their office, and give you clues and cues onto how you may be able to engage them. It also absolutely gives you cues and clues on how you may be able to find common ground with them. Maybe you see a picture of their children and, playing and having lacrosse sticks. They're all posed with their lacrosse sticks, and you played lacrosse in college. That's a great way to identify common ground. Maybe, they've got their, purple and black display in their office, or you've noticed that every Friday they've got their purple on, and you're a huge Ravens fan yourself. You're able to find common ground so that you can engage with others in an authentic way and on an authentic platform. And I will tell you that this is even important for the folks that maybe you necessarily don't always get along with. Even people that you don't always get along with, it's important to figure out ways that you can engage with them and identify ways that you can work with them. And identifying common ground is always a good place to start. So now that we've done all that, now it's time to use your influence that you've been able to build by practicing these skills to actually create change. So having influence in the workplace has clear value. You can get more done. You can advance the projects that you care about and are responsible for, which means you're more likely to get noticed, you're more likely to get promoted, you're more likely to receive raises. And it all comes down to a really simple approach. Listen before you try to persuade. The best way to prime colleagues for backing you or backing your idea is to make them feel heard. Give people your undivided attention in one-on-one situations and practice the discipline of focus. I'm going to say that again. Practice the discipline of focus. For most of us that are in this social media information coming to us at all of these different areas, that could be a very hard thing to do. We may be so used to multitasking that practicing the discipline of focus may sometimes feel foreign to us, but this is a perfect way to do it. When you're in one-on-one situations, make sure you turn your body towards the other person. Listen, maintain eye contact. A big part of workplace resentment is when people feel disrespected or they feel their voices aren't being heard or they feel unseen. So give colleagues opportunities to share their perspectives and ask your colleagues for their perspectives and their advice. Listen before you try to persuade, because then that person will be more inclined to listen to you. Mind your body language and your tone. The people are constantly assessing whether or not to trust you, whether you realize it or not. And we are just we're hardwired to ask the question, is this person friend or foe? Is this person trying to undercut me, or are we on the same side? So your body language is going to be critical to conveying the right message. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. That helps you command or helps you present a confident and commanding presence. Slouching or looking down at your feet has the opposite effect. When you adopt a certain slumping posture, people tend to think in subordinate terms, and you talk in subordinate terms, and that increases the likelihood that you'll be seen as less authoritative. And so mind your body language, mind your tone. I'll tell you one of the things that, that I did early in my career is if I had something important to present, and I can't take credit for this. My mom used to make me do it when I had presentations that I, practice and I'd have to do for school and elementary and middle school and high school. She would always make me practice in front of a mirror. And I thought this was so strange, but she was making me practice in front of a mirror so that I could be cognizant of my body language. And then she would make me record myself. And back then, and this is, I guess how old I am, but whatever. Back then, she would make me record myself on a tape recorder. And so, I'd have to press record and record what I was saying so that I could hear the tone, so that I could understand how it was coming off. And she would make me do these things before I had presentations so that I could understand exactly how it was coming off and whether I needed to tweak that or not to ensure that I was coming off in the way that I wanted to. And so, the mirror, recording yourself, your phone, that still works. So, if you're unsure of your body language, if you're unsure of how people are receiving you, take the time to record yourself and reflect on that, or ask people in your circle that you know and trust and that care about your personal development to provide you with feedback, to be an audience. If you're about to present an idea, to pitch it to them first, to give you their feedback, to sort of serve as a little shark tank for you before you actually go do the real thing. Map a strategy. When it comes time to leverage the influence that you've built to promote a particular idea, to promote a particular position, be strategic. Create a power map to guide your campaign before you go in to pitch it. Create an org chart of decision makers related to your issue. Go through the levels and truly just ask yourself, can I influence this person directly? If not, whom can I influence that can influence this person? Begin to think about how and when you will approach these various colleagues. Is there a particular time that is better than another? Are there certain reports that come out at a certain time that puts a colleague in a bad mood? That might not be the time that you want to come and approach them with their creative idea. Proactively identify who might be threatened by your plans and how you can bring them over to your side. You are not scheming, you are strategizing. But creating a game plan and mapping it out beforehand helps you be as strategic as possible and as effective as possible at pitching your ideas and getting big things done. Give people what they want. You can increase your influence on a particular issue by framing it authentically as a benefit to the people that you want on your side. Reflect back to the example that I gave about the support for the Reginald F. Lewis Museum. One of the things that I mentioned in the email is that I felt that the bank would be better positioned, within the community, would be seen as a relevant stakeholder and one that understood the needs and the importance of the history of the museum within the community. I didn't frame it as, I think it's a good idea because, but here is the opportunity to the organization. Consider each stakeholder's needs, perspectives, and temperaments, and do your homework to find out what they need to hear and what will capture their attention. You need to become students of the folks that you are trying to influence. And for each person, make sure that you're answering the question, what's in it for me? What's in it for them? Talk about how an idea will benefit the organization as a whole. Always use the word we, as in we'll see value. If your proposal is fundamentally self-interested, people will not line up. If you are presenting the interest to the organization or to the folks that you want to get on your side, you'll get a much different result. And then be passionate. One surefire way to get people interested in your project or idea and influence them to join you is by being yourself very interested and passionate in your project. Nobody wants to join anybody that feels like, they're Debbie Downer about presenting their idea. Authentic passion and excitement are absolutely contagious, especially when you are making the impact clear. Now, we went through some tips to really talk about, as I mentioned, the 3 areas, how you can strengthen your network. We focused on 10 areas there that, regardless of your time or your resources, are very low lift, low energy ways that can yield very high outcomes of results in strengthening your network. Influence to begin to create change. Now, remember, you do want to cultivate personal connections with colleagues so that they assume positive intent when you attempt to influence them. Again, this is being strategic. When you cultivate those positive personal connections on the front end, people are more likely that they're going to assume positive intent on the back end. The area president that I sent an email to did not assume negative intent or that I was trying to position myself or take away from the insight that they brought, that the existing team brought to philanthropy. Because of that interaction, he received it as trying to make sure that the company was in a better position. Make it clear to your colleagues that you value their opinions. Take steps to develop expertise by, again, whether you're attending conferences, you're learning online, identifying opportunities to take leadership roles in professional organizations, or learning more about a community issue that your business might be able to positively impact. Take the time, make the investment in developing your personal expertise. And one thing that I'll add here is one of the easy ways to do this is to make sure that you are not 100% booked in your schedule during the course of the week. One of the things that I always do is I factor in and I schedule in learning and thinking time into my calendar. These are busy times that I schedule to think, to learn, to read up on newspaper articles, white papers, to meet with folks who are experts in a particular field. But I schedule thinking time and learning time. And that has made me a much better, able to influence because I'm taking that time to be intentional about my learning. Make use of and maintain good tone and good body language. Again, utilize the tools. If you need to record yourself, video, audio, make sure you do it so that you recognize how you're coming off and how you're being received by others. And identify and become informed about social issues and needs in your area, including authentically listening to the people and experiences of those directly impacted. Consider if you have indirect or direct access to people or resources that can positively contribute to change, and always think creatively about the resources available to you. One of the other things that influential people do is that they are willing to take risks. Influential people are not recommending the run of the mill idea. Be willing to think big. Be willing to think things through so that, poke holes into your argument, into your idea to make sure that you are fully thinking out your concept, but absolutely be willing to think creatively about the resources available to you as you're working to leverage your influence and meet needs. Now, a couple of
I think Monica might have lost connection.
And
I think so.
Oh, she's back.
Okay.
She's back.
Oh, did I lose you? Did you lose me?
Just
Sorry.
for a
sure
second.
did.
It's okay.
Okay. Where did you lose me at?
You actually went out just a few seconds ago. So if you can just repeat your last probably 2 sentences, we'll be good to go.
Cool. So thank you. So on the don'ts, do not worry that your attempts to gain sway are manipulative. You are being strategic. And one of the things that you absolutely want to do in your career is be strategic, intentional, and authentic. Also, do not use I too much. In your quest for influence, you want to talk about how your ideas will benefit the entire organization or community that you're focused on and how we will see value. So, to wrap this up, because I do want to make sure that we have time for questions, I want to say that building influence through example and conviction will not net you millions of, Instagram or YouTube or Twitter followers. But in the workplace, where you are able to influence opportunities for social change, where you're able to leverage opportunities to build your wealth, it can have a longer lasting ripple effect, shaping the organization decisions, direction, culture, and gaining commitment and loyalty. And really, as you build influence, you have no idea that what it's doing to make an impact on others. And, you might be you might be able to offer feedback and support to a coworker to help complete a challenging project because that's what you do and that's who you are. Your character develops when no one is looking, and only in hindsight do you realize that you actually are unpacking what it means to influence people. So with that, I will open it up to any discussion or questions that you may have. I apologize for cutting out a little bit ago.
All right. So thank you so much, Monica. Let's see if we have any questions. If anyone wants to put questions directly into the chat, you can certainly do that, or you can come off mute to have the discussion. I wasn't able to see the chat while Monica was presenting, but it looks like we got some wonderful dialogue going here in the chat. So that's awesome. All right, I don't see any questions coming in, no one coming off of mute. So I will say at this point, Thank you so much, Monica. That for me, that was very inspiring. I don't know about anyone else in the audience, but ever since you said, mind your body language, I'm trying to sit up straight and make sure, but these are wonderful tips. And I really plan to cultivate connections more with my colleagues and those networks that are surrounding me. It looks like we got a question from Cynthia Burris. Cynthia, you want to ask in the chat, or are you going to come off
I
of
can
mute?
come off mute. Hi,
All right.
everyone. I just want to first
Hi.
of all say a huge thank you to Monica. I thought this was phenomenal information. I feel inspired in terms of the types of influence that I'm planning on cultivating from here going forward. And it was nice to take stock in some things that I didn't realize that I was already doing that fall into some of these categories. So I think it's always important to assess and look at what you're doing in terms of growth and moving forward. But my question for Monica, what advice do you have when an individual that is trying to be influential and is trying to, grow their brand and their reputation when they come up against some of these hurdles, or maybe they have a pitfall? Because it's not always going to go perfectly, right? We are going to learn and grow, and part of that is stumbling a little bit along the way. But what advice would you have for an individual who's experiencing some of those hardships?
First of all, I'm so glad you can join Cynthia on today. So thank you so much for joining and for being so supportive. I think that's a great question. One thing that I encourage everybody to have is sort of like your knights of the round table, right? Like your group that you can trust, that you can shoot an email over to for them to read over for tone before you hit send. If you need to, I see you shaking your head there. If you need to rant real quick before you go back and engage with a coworker, and now that you've gotten that off, you can engage positively. We're people, right? And so there may be stumbling blocks that you come up against. There may be people who are just, despite your best efforts, just simply difficult to deal with. And so I really strongly suggest that everybody has their core group of supporters. I have like my sister circle. I have other folks, mentors, folks that are on text, like they're already on my group text. And, at a moment's notice, I can shoot a message to say, hey, this is going on. How would you advise me? Or do you have 5 minutes for me to ask you a quick question? It is always just fine to take a pause. Whether it's responding to an email, whether somebody is asking you to do something and you have too much on your plate, it is always fine to hit pause. And quite frankly, I highly encourage you to do that, because sometimes we say yes too quickly and can overwhelm ourselves. We may not take a pause and respond in ways that we don't intend to. And so that's one of the other things that I, suggest, not only having a group of advisors, mentors that can give you, that been there, done that, and they're like, oh, honey, this is a small problem. Your sister circle that you can rant to, talk you down, and then they'll give you that great advice. So you'll have different groups of folks, and then taking a pause so that you can just recenter yourself. Make sure that you're reprioritizing what is important to you, your goals, and how this next interaction is either going to provide you with an opportunity to reframe, reboot, or demonstrate your resilience. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Monica. That was great.
Sure was.
And I don't want to miss Antonio's question. I'm so sorry. He asked a little bit earlier, but what are some ways to build confidence in your abilities and influence? He states, I was listening and reading the slides and realized I have a lot of your tips in my approach, but I know I lack confidence to sell or persuade.
That's
Great
great question. Thank you, Antonio, for the question. I think that, volunteering, being engaged in the community is a really impactful way to, I think, build your own personal confidence, because, folks are not judging you in the context of work. And quite often they're not judging you at all. They're just happy that you're there. They're happy that you care. And so you're able to sharpen your skills in a place that is non-threatening, that anything that you do is probably going to be contributing good. And it's hard not to have an increased feeling of confidence once you've engaged with others to, in a way to help. And so for me, I absolutely leveraged opportunities to work with nonprofit partners, to volunteer in the community as ways to practice my own skills, presentation skills. I work for a bank. I used to do a lot of financial education presentations. Through that, I would sharpen my presentation skills. Doing financial education presentations to children is humbling because they will let you know whether you're boring or not, whether the information is relevant or not. They will absolutely let you know those things. And believe it or not, you are using those opportunities to practice in a safe space. And you then take those skills and you bring them back to your company. You bring them back to any of the relationships that you're trying to sharpen. But I just can't overstate how important and central volunteerism has been for me in developing my own personal skills and confidence to be able to show up in the workplace.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you. Thank you for the questions, everyone. I do just want to remind everyone approaching 4 o'clock that we are going to have a networking happy hour immediately following this session. I will take down any questions, comments, or feedback that you may have for Monica and share with her after today's happy hour. We have some other sessions coming up in the conference, and I just want to take a moment to remind you all. Patty has put some links in the chat. We want to invite you on Wednesday to our spotlight session at 6:30 p.m. Join us to hear some leadership stories from local leaders and learn how you can join them to take action. The professional development sessions, just like today's amazing session, will continue on Thursday at 3 p.m. And we will also have another non-conference related session, which will allow us to apply some of these skills that Monica has taught us today. We are meeting in Canton on May the 22nd for our hands-on HIT, where we will do a high-intensity interval training workout, a park cleanup, and a happy hour to follow. So we hope that you're able to join us in any of our future endeavors that we have. Volunteering and bringing guests along with you are some of those skills that Monica told us about today. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you can hang out for the 30-minute networking happy hour, if you have additional questions, comments for Monica, please stay with me and I will be sure to get that information to her. Monica, I thank you so much. I feel like I have a list of things that I'm going to email you about as a personal mentor, advisee, sister circle. But thank you so much. And you're such an amazing person and your accomplishments are just out of this world. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us this afternoon.